My littles, a lot of us will actually come into motherhood and like wish that our children were different. We might not admit it openly, but we might say, if my child didn't have so much anger issues or so many outbursts or so many tantrums, or if they listened better, then I would have a, better motherhood or a better experience parenting, whatever. But the reality is that if we are not willing to allow the Holy Spirit to fix us, then there's no way that we can fix our littles. And so this phrase is kind of a little bit of a catch-22, kind of a play on words. I thought it would be kind of fun to bring that up. But the reality is that I'm going to go through some biblical and practical applications for you. We're going to go ahead and go straight to it. So yes, let's fix our littles, but the reality is let's position ourselves to allow the Holy Spirit to fix us. Because if we can create a scenario and an environment for our children, they will thrive, because God has created them to be responders. And so they respond to our frustration. They respond to our tone, the way that we model words. I mean, you will notice that your children will do things that you do because they are responders, which should bring us hope that wherever your child is, whatever scenario, whatever's going on, that they are not stuck because of a personality or whatever. There is hope for them, because if you change, your children will change just naturally. That's just the order. So I do have some notes with me, because I want to make sure that I'm staying on topic, and I want to be able to give you guys the most optimal experience while you're here. I am going to cap this at 30 minutes, so if I don't get through something, we can pick back up next weekend. But yes, I see there's a few of you here, so if you're watching, please say hello, introduce yourself. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started to the first struggle, which is first-time obedience. If you don't follow me on Instagram, my handle is Oksana Rachel. It won't allow me to like comment anything on here, but I'll post it in the link below when I post this replay. Follow me on Instagram, because I ask a lot of questions there to make sure that I'm catering to you appropriately. And one thing that, like, I think it was like over 68% of you voted that first-time obedience was extremely difficult. And so I'm pulling apart my first example. So I have a mom here, and she said, anytime that I talk to my child, hold on, let me actually pull up her exact questions. Okay, so my child, I think she mentioned she has 2 children, age 4 and 6. Anytime that I talk to my child, they hear me, they look at me, but they keep doing whatever they're doing, playing, whatnot. I don't want to yell, but if I don't repeat myself or raise my voice, nothing happens. I feel ignored, I feel frustrated, I don't know what to do. Sometimes they will look at me and laugh, sometimes they just keep doing it, and I feel really helpless. This, y'all, if you struggle with this, let me know in the comments below. Because I think, like, I don't know, I talk about this like, all right, pause. Actually, we're going to come back because I want to make sure we're staying on topic. Y'all, I'm about to get FaceTime mode with you. Okay, so let me reframe this. Moms struggle with this. Your kids don't listen. They laugh at you. You repeat yourself, and then you end up having to raise your tone to allow that kind of like power to, I guess, compensate their lack of listening. But what you're doing, and I just posted a video on this, is we are unintentionally training our children not to listen to us when we don't follow through the very first time. And if you were, so this example, so I'm just going to pull apart a common example, right? So your child is playing with blocks. Hold on, let me see where I'm at. Okay, yeah, so your child is playing with blocks, and you come up to your daughter and you say, hey, go ahead and clean up your blocks. It's time for dinner. Of course, the common thing is that your child continues to play. They ignore you. They don't respond. And so naturally you say, hey, sweetie, please clean up your blocks. And then you might continue, hey, sweetie, did you hear mommy? And now at this point, you might be like feeling that you're fuming a little bit. And then you might snap. And that's what a lot of moms do, is clean up your blocks now, or you threaten, right? If you don't clean them up, I'm going to blank. Or please clean up your blocks, honey. Here, let me show you how. And, kind of that anxiety takes over. But what you ought to do, and again, this isn't like your child being like rebellious or defiant, or their personality is just like hard of hearing. What they're really in their head thinking is, mom won't follow through, and so I have more time to play. And it kind of creates this like child-centered home where the child is like, well, I can do whatever I want because there's no consequence, so why not? It's more fun to play with my blocks than to not. And so the real life example is that you are not to repeat or negotiate or plead or beg, whether you bribe, whether you threat, all of those things, you're training your child not to listen. And so the proper way that you would go about it is, hey, sweetie, go ahead and clean up your blocks. And you give your child a few seconds to respond, and she doesn't. So you go immediately after your very first command, you go straight to your child and you say, sweetie, I notice that it's hard for you to obey mommy right now. I will help you. And then you go ahead and take the blocks and you remove them. If the child is a little older, I actually put my, like the toys in the toy jail. I talked about this in the previous video. And I allow my child to earn that toy back through a chore or some sort of like compensation. Because for me, it's like I had to come and clean up your blocks when this is something that I asked that you would do. And what that does is it teaches your child that, oh, mom means what mom says. And so if I don't clean up my blocks get taken and there is a consequence. And what happens is you only do this 2 or 3 times before your child comes in and says, before the next time that you say, hey, sweetie, go ahead and clean up your blocks, your child immediately goes to, okay, and they do it. Because they don't want blocks taken, right? Like they have that sort of value and ownership that you will follow through and those blocks will get taken. And so it will be better for them to obey you. And so that's a very simple example. We can go through so many of these. And if you want, I don't know if the comments are here, but if you want to pull up some, sorry, y'all, I'm still new to this live thing. But yeah, if you want to ask some questions below, like for your scenario, something maybe you tried this and it doesn't work, just let me know. I'd love to pull apart why for you. Because the reality is a lot of moms will say, oh, I tried everything and nothing works. And I really appreciate that heart of like you being intentional. But the reality is you might have tried everything, but not for long enough. And so, okay, I have a question here. I'll get to you in just a second. Okay. So bad at multitasking. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and answer your question. She says, what happened? Y'all, I don't know. I can't see these questions once they pop up. I believe that I read that your child, you said to your child, if you don't clean up these blocks, if you don't clean up these blocks, I'm going to give them away to another child. And then your child says, okay, sure. If that's correct, please let me know yes. If not, rephrase it, please. So in that case, whatever you say, you need to make sure that you are able to follow through. And so I will never tell my child, if you don't eat your food, I'm going to send it to the kids in Africa because they're starving. Because the reality is I'm not going to box up that food and pay for all the shipping. I just won't. I won't do it. So if I am actually not going to pack up those blocks and give them away to a child, like right there immediately within the next 24 hours, then I will not bring that up. Because again, that falls into the line of it being a threat. Now, if you are, I'm gonna, you know what, I think I'm gonna come back to the questions at the very end so I make sure I'm like keeping to what you guys are here for. But if you are willing, like let's say you tell your child, hey, if you don't clean up these blocks, and actually let me back up a little bit. The word if can be a fighting word. You want to maintain like your child being in a, I did do it the first time and then he did it again. Okay, that's a really good example. You want to maintain those words like if, stop, don't. Those are fighting words. They put your child in a fighting mode instead of a thinking mode. And so whenever you do speak to your child, make sure you're following through. And so, sweetie, let's go ahead and clean up those blocks. And then in your case, you did and the child didn't care. So for me personally, that child did not value those blocks. They might say they did, but the reality is, like if somebody was to give away like a shirt, I'd be like, okay, sure, go ahead. But if somebody was to give away like my wedding ring, now that's a lot more value. And I would actually be like, no, please, I really need my wedding ring. Like that's actually really valuable. So it might be that your child, and again, I don't know your whole scenario, so we can chat after, but your child has too many toys. And so whatever gets taken, they just immediately go to, okay, I have other toys, so that's not a problem. Or 2, that's not really quite like a good exchange, a good consequence. And so in your case, you might not even want to give the toys away. You might actually just want to swap the child with the chore. And so since you had to clean up his chores or his toys, you would have him do something of yours that is lesser, like that is harder for him, like something like, a bathroom cleaning or scrubbing a baseboard or going outside and raking or something of more substantial difficulty than cleaning up a couple blocks. And again, I don't know your whole scenario, so like I love this though so much. So thank you for engaging with me. But yes, comment below if you've tried those other things. So yeah, the value, I would do less value, like less toys so you can have more value, or 2, do a chore swap instead. Whatever your consequence needs to be, it has to communicate that that whatever you say you mean, and there is a consequence to it. And the thing too is the consequences don't always have to make your child suffer. Like, I don't need my child to cry and, like grieve over the loss of his life and things. Sometimes the consequence is just a matter of if and then scenarios. Like, if this doesn't happen, then this will occur. And whether the emotion is there or not doesn't necessarily matter as much as me actually being faithful to follow through. So anyways, I know that's kind of a little bit of a side thing, but the reality is that a lot of moms just get really stuck in repeating and reminding and negotiating, and you might find yourself feeling cornered, like just reacting. And so I really encourage every single mom is to get proactive, which means pull apart your week and write down every single thing that is a common trigger for you or your child, and then write down what are those common roots. And so, for example, if you find yourself constantly getting frustrated at bedtime, that would be a trigger that you would write down, saying bedtimes are really hard. Then the next day you would pull apart that bedtime. Like, why is it hard? Is it because they're not responding when I say brush their teeth? Or is it because they're not winding down? Is it because we're too rushed? Is it because, whatever your scenario is, obviously all of our families are going to look different. But start paying attention to what your struggle is, so that you're not just reacting in the heat of the moment when your emotions are high and you're exhausted and you don't quite know. But start actually like paying attention to what those things are, so that you can have a plan the next time those things surface. And that goes to my question number 2, is routines. And so I have a mom here. Okay, she, again, struggles with bedtime. It gets really loud. I'm super overstimulated. I feel like I'm doing everything, cooking dinner. And again, I'm paraphrasing because it was a long conversation. Cooking dinner, I'm cleaning up. The kids are wild. They're all over the place. I give them time to reset, but they don't. I ask them to put on pajamas, to brush their teeth, and that's a whole wrestle in itself. And next thing you know, I'm snapping at them. I'm yelling at them, sending them to bed angry. What can I do? Okay. Bedtime, you guys, like nighttime routines are one of, like, morning routines and bedtime routines are some of the hardest, because they're like the beginning and the ending of a day. And this is what I talk a lot in my my Raising Little Disciples ebook that I just launched. I talk a lot about rhythms, because I know realistically, especially for like a Christian mom of littles, we don't always have the freedom to say 7 a.m. is this, 7:15 is this, 8:30 is this, 8:30, 2:30, like we don't always have that opportunity to have those exact times scheduled out the way that we might want to, especially if you're like me and you're a planner. And so I love talking about rhythms and systems and routines, because regardless what's taking place in my day, I still have the same foundational framework and the same script that I'm using, the same follow through that I'm using. And so my children go to bed at 7, but regardless if I put them down earlier or later, I'm still having the same framework. And children love consistency. And so for this mom, what I would say is, what is your routine? What's your kind of base? And I know some moms don't thrive on this, and so you got to find like how you thrive. We're all different. God made us all unique. But I asked this mom, there should be some sort of basic like framework. Like, you have dinner, and then you have pajamas, then you have teeth, you have books, you have bed. I mean, like whatever your time frame is or timeline is. Because children thrive on consistency. They thrive on knowing what's next. And a lot of the chaos that happens with the mornings and evenings especially is because it's a reactive kind of scenario. Like, everyone's tired, everyone's hyper, everyone's trying to get their sillies out. Mom is stressed, the house is messy, it's loud. And so there's a lot of like high emotional tension without a lot of like actual follow through. And so personally for me, bedtime does not start at 7 p.m. when I put them down. It starts like an hour earlier. And I think it's important to give yourself that kind of cushion. And I'm sure you know this, like if you're going to church or somewhere, you don't start getting the kids ready 5 minutes before you're supposed to be there, because that's just like so much chaos. And we've all done this, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, but we all like prepare you typically the night before, right? Like we lay out basic outfits, maybe we lay out like lunches, whatever. There's some sort of small plan usually. I mean, especially if you have several littles. And if you don't do this, it's okay. I'm just saying this is like personally my own, just speaking out of my experience. And so with bedtime routines, have that sort of system the same way an hour or so prior. Start winding down. Start letting your children know during dinner. Hey, dinner ends at 5:30, and then we're gonna go ahead and get our jammies on and brush our teeth. And then you carry on with dinner. You make it fun and sweet, but you're just letting them know, hey, this is what's happening next. Excuse me. And I do this a lot, like literally every time I go out to a restaurant, a grocery store, a friend's house, I sit my kids in the car and I say, hey, how do we behave? How do we treat our friends? How do we respect the guests that we're going to be in? How can we serve our friends while we're there? And I give them these scenarios and we role play them sometimes so that they know what the expectation is. So I'm sorry, that's a little bit of like a framework, but I think it's important before I tell you like what to do. Because I believe that every mom should have a system and a framework and a sort of mindset before you can carry out on like your actual day-to-day, I guess, duties. So anyways, start to reset like about an hour before. Start dimming the lights, start softening the voices, and then let the child know clearly, hey, after dinner, we're gonna all clean up. Personally, we do blessing time, which means the whole family cleans. I handle all like the dishes and, cleaning up the kitchen. The kids do like the living room, the couches, the pillows, the toys. And we blast loud music, and this is a time for every silly to be let out. Like, go dance. My kid will put the pillows on the couch, and they're like jumping on the couch and having the time of their life. And I set a timer for 20 minutes. Once the timer is up, we literally will have a dance party. Like, get every single thing out. I'm throwing my kids in the air. My husband's wrestling them. I mean, it's a party. But then after that, it's a time for us to like fill into our child's heart. And then we say, all right, let's go get our jammies on and let's get ready for bed. And I know this is opposite from what I just said of like winding down and dimming lights. So again, you'll have to find what works for your family. You might not be this way, but we personally need to we have boys, so they need to get their energy out. Anyway, so we have a dance party, all of that stuff. Yeah, after that, we'll go ahead and get jammies and teeth. Now, this is a question that another mom had. I didn't plan for this today, but I just got reminded of it. She has a hard time with her son brushing his teeth. I think he's 2 or 3. And she's like pinning him down. He's crying. It's like, a whole wrestle. So personally, what I encouraged her when, she asked this question, I said, to follow through with that, the consequence is that you read books and snuggle with boys that have clean breath or clean teeth. And there has to be that kind of follow through. Like, you don't want to if you have to control their physical body, that's not obedience. That's not you exercising your authority in a kind and biblical way, because one day they're going to be bigger than you and stronger than you, and the obedience has to come from the heart, and it can't just be like their external behavior of like what you can do to them, and so I told her, hey, there's a couple scenarios you can practice. Do you want mommy to brush your teeth, or do you want to brush your own teeth? Give them this sense of ownership, a sense of control. Let's say the child then freaks out, doesn't want to do either. So within 10 seconds, you make a decision. Okay, no worries, I will help you brush your teeth. And then you brush. Now, of course, he's fighting, resisting. And then you say, mommy will help you as long as you're allowing mommy to help you. And again, these are the scripts that you use. They're called enforceable statements, which means you only say things that you can or will or are able to do. So I don't say, you will do this, or you better do this, or stop doing this, because what if they don't? Now I lost my authority and my follow through. But if I say, mommy will help you as long as you stay still. Mommy will brush your teeth as long as, now if the response isn't there, mommy will no longer do what I said I will. You know what I mean? Same thing, mommy will read books to boys who have clean breath. And what happens is the child thinks he wins, and he comes, sits on your lap for the reading time at bed. And you say, oh, I see that your teeth aren't clean. Mommy doesn't read to boys that don't have clean breath. And then you send him back to brush his teeth. And what happens is you only literally have to do this like 2 or 3 times before the child catches on that, oh, she's actually serious. Like, she will send me to bed without a book if my teeth aren't clean, because that's something that we can't just ignore. You have to brush your teeth. Like, that's part of reality. Like, we all have to do that even if we don't want to. And to empathize with your kid, I tell my son, I don't want to brush my teeth most nights. I'm so tired. I don't want to brush my teeth, but I do it because I'm taking care of the body that God has given me, and it's how I can steward my teeth so that I can eat and, all things. Anyways, that was a little bit of a side note. So going on to bedtime routines. So getting your rhythm, getting your reset. Somebody here asked, and again, these comments come up in a second and they go away, so I don't always have the time to quite read them. But something, if your husband's working all day and wants to come home and play, what do you do? again, every family is going to have their own rhythm of what works. Like for me, I am a firefighter family. My husband works night shifts. I'm alone a lot more than most moms I know. And so when my husband is home, what I do is I actually will always make sure to like really honor my husband. Even if we're having marriage difficulty, even if we're having some sort of riffraff, like I will make sure that before my children, my husband is like a hero to them, because they will eventually have their own opinions of us. And why would I, as a Christian godly woman, give some sort of accusation or lie about my husband to my child instead of letting him develop his own framework and thought? That's a little bit of a side note, but anyways, and so I actually personally will prepare for that kind of play more than I will like force a child to clean or do housework or anything. Sorry, y'all, these texts. Yeah, so I personally, like, I know that like my son and my husband wrestling is much more valuable than me creating like a cleaning routine for my house at this certain time. So what I do personally is I will move that blessing time. If I were you, I would move it earlier, like maybe after lunch, so that when your husband does come home, he has a clean home to come home to, and he has children that are willing to play and able to play because they did their chores. And again, you can use this enforceable statement here saying, Daddy will be happy to wrestle with you as long as whatever your blank is, you complete your chore of cleaning your bedroom, doing the laundry, whatever the chore is. And again, what this does to your child is say, okay, I am responsible for my part because this is something that's been asked of me. And like, pause. I think it's important that our children know that like we are all stewarding what we've been given. Like we're all responsible for doing things even if we don't want to. And so like sometimes my son will say, Mommy, I don't really want to clean. And I'll tell him, buddy, I know. And you know what? I don't really want to cook. But is it a way of like serving you and blessing you and like stewarding? Yes. So then I do it, even if I don't necessarily love it, but I ask for joy and grace in the midst of it. And so I tell my son, if you don't feel like doing something, you can ask for the grace, but your emotions are not the deciding factor. They are just like, they follow, like they follow your will. And so it's more important to do it and then let your emotions catch up. Y'all, I'm talking a lot. If any of this is helpful for you, I saw one of you guys say thank you. So grateful for those kind of comments, because it's good to know that I'm not just like wasting your time here. Anyway, so this is helpful for you. Give me like a thumbs up or a heart or some kind of emoji. Anyway, so with the evening rhythms, I said a little note here, predictable rhythms help children feel safe. And so the more predictable that you can make your life, obviously, we all have different scenarios, but the more predictable and consistent that your life and routines and rhythms can be, the more that you will thrive and the more that your children will thrive, because you won't be reacting and they won't be reacting. Like you guys will all have just that safe, like this is just what we do. This is what families do. We all do this together. And so, okay, so I'm going to move on to my question number 3. Where is it? Okay, power struggles. Okay, this is another one that when I posted on my Instagram, again, it's Oksana Rachel is the handle. I ask a lot of questions on there because I want to know where you guys are at. But the third one that you guys had a lot of hard time with is power struggles, specifically with like tantrums and grocery stores and just, things like that. And so I believe that power struggles will be eliminated more times than not if you can give your child a sense of ownership and control before all of this stuff surfaces. And so if you notice, a lot of times us moms, especially, we live in such like a, hey, go do this, go put on your shoes, hey, clean up, hey, get your room done, hey, go to bed, hey, like we live so much like that and talking so much that we don't always give a chance for our child to really breathe and like choose, And I don't believe like choosing like in the sense of I let my child lead and like he governs the household atmosphere and our schedule. I don't ask my child, hey, do you want me to go to the grocery store now or later? I don't ask those kind of questions. Like I'm the authority of the home. I will decide our schedule. But I ask questions that make no difference for anybody in the world in any way. And so things like blue cup or red cup. Do you want to eat on a chair, or do you want to eat standing up? Do you want to clean your room now? Or do you want to take your, clean your room after you wake up? Like, I give those scenarios. At the end of the day, I don't really care which one he chooses as long as it gets done. And I have a rule of thumb: within 10 seconds, if they don't choose, you choose for them. And this is a little bit twofold, because one, you train them to be excellent decision makers, which is so important. And two, choose for yourself, other people will choose for you, and it won't always be your best, your benefit, for your benefit. And you'll notice that, like, you got to be able to stand up and make decisions. And I grew up having like major decision like paralysis, like, y'all, not even like choosing what to eat, because I feel like every woman struggles with that. But I had like the biggest struggle, like deciding like something small felt like I was deciding like my eternity. Like, I just felt so overwhelmed. And I realized it's because my parents made those decisions for me often, and I never really quite had a voice. But with having 6 kids in the family, I think that's okay. Like, I think I understand that. But now I see what it does when a child becomes an adult. Anyways, so to avoid a lot of these tantrums, I hear you, Nelly. For me, to avoid these kind of scenarios, I know we're about 27 minutes in, so I'm going to wrap up in just a minute. So if you have any other questions, like, please comment below, and I'll take some time to answer them at the end, if I'm able to, right here on the spot. So anyways, allowing a child to have some sort of ownership, some sort of control, I guess, without it affecting like you or your household or anything. So that's the number one thing I would say in regards to like eliminating these kind of power struggles. 2, I would say when you are at places like grocery stores or whatever, you know what, I had a different question here, but I'm going to go on grocery stores because there was a comment here on that. Grocery stores, I will sit my kids in the car before we go in, and I would tell them, hey, we're about to go in the grocery store. As a godly family, we're to be an influence. We're to be light. We're to be honorable. The way, how do we behave in a grocery store? How do we act? And then I will run through scenarios. If I see candy that I want, do I go and grab it off the shelf and put it in the cart? If I see a toy, do I pitch a fit until I get it? And I'm running through these scenarios because I know that they've happened, or they can. And then I will say, what is mommy here for? And I'm giving them this kind of expectation, like, mommy is here for groceries. Mommy is here for whatever. And I don't even bribe with like, if you can be good, then I'll get you candy at the end, because I need them to be able to self-govern without having to always bribe them, because one time that candy won't be enough. They're going to need more and more and more. And so it just sets them up to fail. So I just say, like, this is how we act. This is how we honor. This is how we behave as a family representing Jesus. This is who we are. And we're called to that higher standard. And so what we'll do is we'll, go inside of a grocery store. I will actually allow my children to participate, to give them, again, a sense of ownership, a sense of family. And so I will say, hey guys, mommy's looking for bananas. Do y'all see them anywhere? And of course my kids get excited and they're, oh, right there, right there. And I'm like, can you pick the best one? I know you love bananas. You always have the best taste for bananas. And I'm giving them this kind of excitement. And then now they're having this ownership of grocery. And if your kids are a little older, you can even print out like a little list of like what you're looking for and have them check mark it like a scavenger hunt. I personally don't always have like the mental threshold for that, but if you like love that, that's a great idea. Anyway, so I allow them to be a part, okay? And then if I'm moving on and I'm seeing, we're about to walk through an aisle, I don't avoid aisles, by the way. I don't like skip the toy aisle really fast because I don't want my kids to freak out. I actually will go through those aisles often, not on purpose to tease them, but just to walk through them, so that my children can know how to practice self-control, because it's important. And so what happens is we walk through those aisles, and then a child may say, oh my gosh, I really want that tractor. I need it right now. And, they go through that. What happens is moms get stressed, right? And we're like, no, we're not getting toys. Or you kind of react. Again, I'm trying to really emphasize on like our children are responding to us. And so if we remain calm and neutral, you can neutralize a lot of those arguments just by being in that steady space. And so what I will often say to my child is I will say, oh, I know that tractor looks so cool. I love that one. Which one is your favorite? And I'll empathize or show I guess like I'm entering his world and I care for his world. And sometimes like allowing my child to know that like I'm with him can really allow that whole tantrum to be eliminated. And so I'll say, man, that's such a cool toy. How much is it? And then $20. And then I'll have my child think, Do you have $20 on you? And of course, sometimes if your children start going and grabbing toys, that's a whole other conversation. But honestly, let them grab the toy. And let me tell you why. Because this is a great opportunity for teaching them money and the like the reality that we can't just grab everything in life without having the ability to pay for it. So anyways, again, this is like multi-layered, and so I don't want to go too deep because I feel like I can confuse you guys. But I will actually ask my child, oh, it's $20. How are you going to pay for it? And that's usually a big question, because they'll say, oh, no, you're going to buy it for me. And again, I'll say, oh, mommy was only here for groceries. I'm not here to buy toys. Let me know how you'll pay for it. You'll figure it out. And I leave it at that. What happens is his wheels start spinning. And as a mom, you do not want to think more than your child. Like literally, moms spend so much time stressing out about their kids' tantrums and their messy closets and what they're eating and not eating. And I'm like, girl, you have so much to think about. Don't think about your children's issues more than they can. Like always hand the problem back to your child. And so I will always say that to my child. Hey, how are you going to pay for it? Let me know what you decide. I know you'll figure it out. And then if that child puts it in the cart and we're at checkout, I will actually create a little margin, like when the grocery cart thing, I'll separate it and put his separate. And then I'll be like, hey, you're about to go. This always cracks me up because we've done this a couple times and it's literally amazing. I'll say, hey, you're about to go next. Let me know. Let us know how you'll figure it out. Do you want to hear some options? And if your child, if you don't know what to do next, a good rule of thumb is to provide them those options. Hey, do you want to hear options of what other kids do? Excuse me. And so I'll say, well, other kids raise the money and then they come back for this toy. How's that going to work for you? Again, I'm handing it back to him. He'll say, no, I don't want to raise money. I want it now. Cool. I'll say other kids steal the item and then they deal with the police. How's that going to work for you? And then he's like, I don't want to go to jail, And so anyway, so you're offering these scenarios. Just 2 or 3 is plenty. Don't go overwhelmingly long. And then if he continues, usually by this point, they understand, it clicks and they put it back and they're sad. And then you work through that with them when they come home. Hey, you know what? That toy was $20. If you really feel like you want that toy, how about we think of some creative ways of you to earn money? And again, my child is 4, so I've done this since he was 3. So there's a concept of money that doesn't have to be until they don't have to be old to understand doing chores to raise something. You know what I mean? Not normal chores. I'm talking about extra hard chores that require payment. Anyways, and so that's that's a really loaded conversation. I feel like that's a separate video. If you want to hear that, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I can make a separate run on that. And other times, if your child full out tantrums in the middle of the store and you're like, oh my gosh, we're past all these conversations, because you want to say less. In the middle of a tantrum, they're so dysregulated. Literally, you getting down and hugging them and comforting them, hey, sweetie, I know you're sad. Y'all, don't do that. They're so dysregulated, they will not hear you. And so your actions are more powerful than your words in that moment. And I save my words for when my child's heart is tender and I can actually communicate biblical principles and character, but never in the heat of the moment. So anyways, let's say your child is full out tantruming on the floor, kicking, screaming. So mama, what you do, I know this is crazy, but you carry on. Literally, you continue on with your grocery cart and you move on to the next aisle. And what you want to do is you want to still be able to see your child, because you don't want them kidnapped, but you kind of want to be in a place where they don't see you. And so you kind of move around to the next aisle and you're kind of peeking through the little cart, whatever. And what happens is your child tantrums are looking for attention. They're looking for an audience. And the more that you're there, the louder and more crazy it'll be. But when they see oh my gosh, my mom just left, they will pick themselves up and then start looking for you. And then when they come to you, don't don't make it a big deal. Don't shame and nothing no shame or nothing like that. Instead, just keep it really calm, matter of fact, really neutral. Oh, sweetie, I'm so glad you joined back in. And then, hey, I'm going to get some tortilla chips. Do you want the blue corn or the yellow corn? You move on. No big deal. But I do say these conversations for especially bedtime. My child always wants to talk when I'm laying in his bed snuggling with him at night. And I will say, hey, this morning at the grocery store, I noticed you were really upset. Do you want to talk about anything? Or what was going on? And then I'll even offer these formative instructions of what can we do next time to prevent this? Or what can we do next time to overcome this? And that's those basic principles of self-control go such a long way. And then I want to add one more point on tantrums, because I feel like this is really valuable, But if your child is like freaking out, and you're noticing it's just like a theme, I actually had a dad try this and it worked. I mean, I don't know that I would do this, but I'm going to give it to you in case, again, we're all different. So you might actually like this. But I had a dad that actually, when his daughter tantrumed, I think she was like 4 or 5, maybe 6, I don't know. He actually started stomping and being like, so embarrassing even telling this, but it worked for him. And so I'm like, hey, that's great. So he started stomping and like doing his tantrum. And what this does is it makes the tantrum like silly, because you want your child to see like, this is how you are, this is how it looks like to everybody else. And so the dad did his little tantrum, and then the child, basically the dad said, oh, you lost your touch. Let me show you how it's done, sweetheart. And this is not to be sarcastic, like he was actually just being silly. You lost your touch, let me show you how it's done. And then he starts tantruming and I want it now. And what happens is the daughter stands up and she's like, Dad, stop. Like, you're being really embarrassing. And he's like, give it to me now. And then eventually she was like, Dad, please, that's not how we behave in a store. And like that clicked for her. And so anyways, you know, parenting, sometimes we make it such a stressful situation and like so filled with anxiety and despair and overwhelm and burnout. But like if we can make parenting like creative and fun, it can take away a lot of that and neutralize a lot of that. Oh, sorry, y'all. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so we can make that fun. And I talk a lot about this in my discipleship ebook. I'm going to post the link below. It's on sale for $29. And I have like almost, I think it's 96 pages where I go through like rhythms of mornings and bedtimes and tantrums and whining and oh my gosh, stop. Sorry, my husband is trying to sign in and it keeps popping up. Anyways, y'all, I'm gonna pop off in here just a minute. But anyways, I hope that this was helpful to you. Please let me know in the comments below if it was. And if you want to have anything like for your situation pulled apart, maybe your question answered for the next one, comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, thank you so much for hanging with me. And again, if this was helpful, let me know. Seriously, y'all, if this is, I will continue on. But if you prefer like a live breaking apart moment, we can do that. Instead of these generic questions, I can pull apart just like one mom. And my heart eventually in the future is just to interview like an actual mom, so we can really like, I want to hear those counter, you know, hey, I tried this didn't work, or what about this, or what about this? Because sometimes it helps having another mom's brain that you can pick. Because, you know, we all know this, like it took a village to raise a child. But the reality is a lot of us just parent alone. And it's just not God's heart for us to do that. And so I want to create this community where we can all learn how to raise godly children and become disciples as we disciple our children in the midst of this. And so anyways, thank you for being here with me. I'm going to let y'all go because it's about 40 minutes in. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think that's everything. So y'all have a wonderful day and I will see y'all next time. Bye.